Dr. Mike, you know a thing or two about building muscle. You also know a thing or two about what keeps you from growing muscle. So in this video, I want to interview you and ask you about what the biggest muscle growth mistakes people are making are. What's the biggest muscle growth mistake you see people making?
Amazing. Since you're a scientist, I can ask you follow-up technical questions. Would you like me to speak generally? Would you like me to focus on nutrition, training, recovery, or any one of those three?
And generally, and I want you to consider it in terms of prevalence and the magnitude of effect. So essentially multiplying those two.
Got it. The first thing that comes to mind is consistency. Many of the people that I've interacted with that find muscle growth to be mysterious have never done it in sequence for a sufficiently long amount of time to get much muscle growth. And so if you train pretty hard for a week, then you take a week or two off. If you try a cool chest workout, and then we don't see you in the gym for another few weeks. A surprising number of people that ask about advanced hypertrophy strategies will be in that demographic. And to me, it's just not serious, because even a decent plan will work pretty well if you just keep showing up. So that's a big one. Another one is an insufficient protein and calorie intake, and we'll loop those into one, really. If you don't take in enough protein, how the hell is your body supposed to grow your muscle? I don't know where that's supposed to come from. Bad news, your body doesn't either, and so it just doesn't do it much. It's tough to watch people have super hard workouts and then go to Starbucks and have like a brownie and one of those like mocha chocolate yayas or whatever.
I think you mean dessert.
Yeah.
That's the classic boomer meme of people complaining about Starbucks coffee.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes, Starbucks cake in a cup. And then so you're like, oh man, like, sure hope you eat some protein along with that. For the calories part, there's always the kid that asks you why he can't gain weight and he weighs 130. And the answer is almost always and almost everywhere you're not eating enough. And then they'll tell you, well, I'm eating 4,000 calories a day. And that's some combination of tracking error, outright lie, or tough. It's true. And now you have to eat 4,300 to gain. So not being consistent, not getting in enough protein and calories. If someone, see, you catch me in an elevator and I'm dressed, which is unlikely, probably. I like elevators being naked. It's nice. It's always freaking mirrors everywhere and usually a camera for the man to see.
Good lighting too.
Amazing lighting. So I'm just cock out. I'm doing a bicep. I'm doing it all. Yeah, that's right. Craft thing. If you catch me in an elevator and ask me a muscle growth tips and I'm in the right mood, because usually I just bullshit with people, not in a mean way, just joke with them until they're like, oh, there's a lot of jokes and I didn't learn anything. Fuck. Like, also the jokes were terrible. I'll probably try to get to see if you're consistent and if you're consuming enough calories and protein to gain some weight over some weeks' time. If those two are in a yes, now with all details, but those two are so critical, no details you have before you accomplish those matter at all. Like, I don't give a shit what your weapon looks like if you don't have ammunition. It actually just doesn't matter. Your weapon is basically useless if you don't have ammo in it. And if you have the best written program, if you don't show up to do it, consistency, and if you don't feed your body to give it the raw materials to build stuff with it, it doesn't matter what your program is like. Another top why you're not building muscle thing that comes to mind is overall stimulus, which can be measured by some combination of volume and frequency, because one can only make up for the other so much. So if you really want to drive a lot of hypertrophy to a specific muscle, something like 6 to 8 sets per week, consistently spread over at least 2 sessions, no more than necessarily 2 to 3, 2 to 4 is what I usually use. That's the beginning of the conversation for enough stimulus to cause lots of muscle growth consistently for people of a lot of experience ranges. But if you're getting a sum total of like, your idea for tricep training is you do 2 sets of push downs at the end of a chest workout and you do that once a week, you might even be consistent. You might even be eating protein and calories. But you're training your triceps functionally once a week with tiny, tiny volumes. Even if you count fractional sets, you're up to 6 or 7. That's okay, but once a week, gee whiz. So 6 to 8 total sets per week is the beginning, the bottom end. 2 sessions a week for muscle is the bottom end. If you've traversed that whole spectrum, you may have taken some muscles into the 10 or so sets per session and 3 to 4 sessions per week range. Now, I'm not saying good things are going to happen if you do that, but you will find out very likely that you do have a maximum recoverable volume. And at least that can keep you asleep at night knowing there are 99 reasons why you're not jacked yet, but you not doing enough work is not one of them. So to me, it's a big deal. So when someone says, I really want to put on muscle, go, how many times a week do you train? If it's like a total of 2, if you're a beginner, if you're older, hey, rock on, it's going to work. But if you're muscle obsessed, like most of our viewers probably, which is a great thing, so are we, man, 4 sessions a week is kind of when I start noticing you exist. 4, 5, 6 sessions a week. 2, 3, or 4 times per week you're stimulating the same muscle with a minimum of 6 to 8 sets over the week. I guess 3 or 4 to 5 sets per session, 2 to 3 times a week. That's the beginning. And then you work up in sets from there over time, deload, repeat, so on and so forth. That's a lot of work. But like, it will stimulate your muscles adequately. I've seen people who have programs which is like pull-ups and bent rows kind of 2 days a week, and then a set of like 2 or 3 sets of barbell curls, and they're like, I can't get my arms bigger. And it's like, my friend, if I showed you the top end of that range, you'd be like, what, 6 times the work I'm doing? Yes. Now, if you get to 3 times the work you're doing, you might find that you're getting ultra jacked. You've just never been that high in total exposure. Does that mean you have to train every muscle with that much frequency, etc.? No. But you at least the muscles you really want to grow. Like if you want chest and triceps to blow up over this next half year, we're talking 2 or 3 chest and tricep workouts per week. We're talking 8 to 10-ish sets per workout, per chest and tricep, counting fractional sets. That's where that conversation of like, okay, this is meat potatoes. Because if I know you're doing that, plus eating, plus all the other stuff I said earlier, if you say, man, I still can't grow my triceps, no, you got me befuddled. And you got me curious. And so, do I have time for one more?
Of course, you have plenty of time.
My last one is kind of fucking lame. It's maybe not so helpful, but maybe a little bit helpful. In some sense, a lot of us been lied to. Not lied with a capital L, lied with a lowercase l. Someone misinterpreted some scriptures here and there and told us that, all men are created equal. And even though that is, I believe, in some official U.S. document, Constitution or Bill of Rights or some shit like that, what it's supposed to mean in context is that all people deserve equal, fair treatment under the law and an amount of decency from their fellow human that accepts them as human, and then above all else, all differences or whatever. That's what that's supposed to mean. It does not mean we are clones. It does not mean we have the same genetics. And dare I say, Milo, crazy as may sound, it doesn't mean that all of us can expect to have the same muscle growth as our favorite Instagram influencer who takes steroids all day, and he was already jacked in high school, and he lives in Dubai, and all he does is get jacked, and you're like, why can't I have arms like him? The input variables for the rest of your life are all fucking off anyway. But also, people have different genetics for things, and they're good at different things. And muscle building proclivity is highly, highly genetic. We know this from no inference at all, but direct studies. There are numerous people in every study of muscle growth that record close to 0 or 0 gains. Real, actual measured gains. Some of them record negative gains. Maybe that's measurement error. Sometimes it's not. And so if we can understand that there exist 22-year-old healthy males that reliably from a 12-week or exercise program gain no muscle at all, we can surmise that if we really got Pac and Milo and Greg Knuckles and they really look at them, we might come out of that with another 12-week program that has triple the volume, double the protein, or whatever it takes. And that person might gain 3 total pounds of whole body muscle from that. And after 3 weeks of training a little bit easier, they have involuted back to no muscle at all. Those are real people. There are millions of them. You're probably, Mr. Viewer, Mr. and Mrs. Viewer, you're probably not one of those people. Thank God. But we're all somewhere on that spectrum. And so one of the big downsides of here's why you're not gaining muscle. There's a lot of people that will ask me that. I look them up and down and I'm like, dude, you're jacked. And they're like, no, I'm not. But you're objectively jacked. And they're like, well, compared to you. And I'm like, do you know how long I've been taking drugs for? And also, you know, I never got to be too handsome, too smart, too much head in my hair, or too tall. Definitely not too tall. I was pretty gifted in muscle growth. I started training and I just kept adding muscle and I kept gaining weight and I just kept adding muscle. I must have gained like 40 pounds in my first 40 pounds of muscle in my first 4 years of lifting. And every year I gained a really similar amount of muscle. I watched my friends and my people in gym class around me. I was the only person that really happened to. A couple other people weren't as dedicated as me. They got pretty good results, probably similar or slightly better genetics. But I went to high school, like 1,300 people. A lot of people really struggle to put on goddamn near anything. And the average person is going to put on some muscle, but it's not going to be some crazy shit. So I think a lot of that situation of, am I putting on the muscle? The reasons why you're not gaining muscle. You are gaining muscle. But as long as you have your big picture all set in, like I just talked about, that stuff, that may be about your best muscle gain rate for the time being. Now, when non-androgenic anabolics come out as medications in 2028 or whatever, we're all in there. Have a super fun time getting jacked at no expense. But until then, it's just a fucking reality thing, man. I have to see it somewhere. It sounds rude, it sounds mean, but it's just real. And I hate it when people who like 5'9", 165, couple abs, couple vein, little bicep, looking fucking great. Bitches love it. But he's like, yeah, man, I just can't get big. Shut up, you are big. Yeah, but I'm not like, oh, like an IFBB pro. Yeah, I know. But that road is a road you might not want to take if you found out how many fucking shit you have to how many swivels you have to drive around to get there. And also, you just might not have the genetics for it, which is so totally okay because you think about it, you don't have elite genetics for almost anything, except for maybe a few things. Do a lot of that, and if you're not unreal muscle gain genetics, understand that you're going at your own pace. Try to do a little better, have the expectations set to beat last year's you, not to try to get to somewhere between last year's you and Jay Cutler in his prime.
People are always complaining about how exercise scientists overcomplicate everything. I think you just described, well, 80% or something of the inputs to the muscle hypertrophy response, they're actually within your control.
Sure.
Genetics, not so much within your control.
Not yet.
Not yet. And certainly, most of the people that I've seen complain about their muscle growth response, if they have those 80-90% taken care of, it mostly does come down to just genetics and having the right expectations.
Yes.
For many people, they have an inflated expectation of what they might achieve over 12 weeks, a year, what have you.
Sometimes we call those hopes. But hopes don't pay the bills, you know?
Correct. The good thing is, the people who don't see good results typically don't stick around the gym that much. Like, that is
sure
genuine, it is. Like, I think that part of the reason why people have unrealistic expectations is obviously, like, on Instagram, you see the freaks. But partly it's also the people who keep training.
Yes.
Who end up seeing in the gyms.
Gym people.
Video. They actually grow well. And that's what kept them in the gym.
Survivorship bias.
Correct. Mike, you crushed it. Where can people find you?
RP Strength on YouTube. Start your journey there and end your journey by giving me money for our various suite of digital products.
It's been a pleasure. Peace.
Peace, homies.